I want to get interviewed in the next few minutes. I'm about to ask who would like to be interviewed in the next few minutes. Okay, you're gonna help me, obviously. Okay, first the application though. Outstanding applications where I have no notes, they did it perfectly. I've read 8,000 applications. I read this application and I say, this one looks like it'll get in. Odds of getting in at that point from my history are 10%. So what I'm doing is giving you enough feedback that you can be 10% likely. Here's the thing. Y Combinator invented a way to get top tier capital without knowing anyone, without anyone caring what school you've been to, what unit you were in. It's really the most available front door in the world. The conversion rate's really low, but there's something really special about that. And we hope lots of people copy it. And if there's a Y Combinator of Israel and I don't know about it, I hope it succeeds. If there's gonna be more of them, I hope that succeeds too. But the philosophy of it was, we wanted to make it so you didn't have to know someone to get in. Nothing I do to help you will help you get in because I know someone and can write a recommendation. We actually invented a recommendation system so people could ask for recommendations because they so much wanted to, and instead they were asking us for coffee chats, and we would way rather just like fake a recommendation and go to a coffee chat. Okay, so the application is really just how well you understand your users and how good of a builder you are. And I say that because most of the Israeli applications need, like the founder needs to describe their IDF experience. And oh my God, I can promise you the person reading the application does not know what the number 8,200 means, nor do they care. If you were elite in some way because you went to some school or you served in some way or you've been part of some impressive startup in some way, the way we should know it is you speak in really clear ways where you really understand your users. That's the proof. Don't worry about it. If you don't have any of those things, you're now on equal ground. If you see that a lot of people on the social media say that lots of Stanford or MIT kids get in, most of the reason they get in is they write really good applications. I can promise you no one cares they went to those schools. All right, the application. The application asks questions. Answer the exact question with 0 other words in your answer. If you can describe your whole product in 9 sentences, in 9 words instead of 90, you should do that. What is Dropbox? You guys remember Dropbox, or am I now too old? Yeah. What is Dropbox? Dropbox is subversion for files. Doesn't need any other words. Very simple. You want yours to be so simple, and you may have a vision that becomes bigger later on, but when you describe your product, you describe it. Because we don't care about the product, we care about whether your description shows that you are a clear thinker. And our test is, we should be able to read the description, or when talking to you in the first 30 seconds, we should be able to steal your idea and start coding immediately, because that's how clear of a description you had. Okay, so that's step 1, is within the 30 seconds of reading the application or the interview, is we can steal your idea. At that point, we've joined you, we now understand what the hell you're talking about. Almost certainly, we've seen this idea before. We do not care whether it's unique. Couldn't care less about who your competitors are. We ask a slightly different version of the competitor question. What we ask is, what do you understand about your users that other people don't? We're not asking you to frame the market for us. We don't care. We're asking this as a way to understand your depth of knowledge of your users. The best user is when you just build something for yourself. At least then we know you know your own requirements. If you're building for some other user, show off your knowledge of their needs. You'll find that that question is the same question we would ask in like office hours 2 weeks later. You know, we're trying to help you now, we've already invested. We would say something like, what do you understand about your users that other people don't know? So the interview really is just the beginning of us joining you in asking the same questions we should always be asking. We do have a little scorecard. The scorecard is, did they clearly describe what they do? The second thing is determination. Again, the Israelis, you guys exude determination. But some of the ways we figure out determination is, the most important one by far is, if you're building something with great friends, we expect that you'll be determined. If you're not building something with great friends, we sometimes ask ourselves why you aren't capable of convincing your own friends to build something with you. And so, you can be a solo founder, those exist. We don't cancel you out, but we do ask why you're incapable of convincing your own friends to join you. The biggest reason we care about whether you're friends with your co-founder is we ourselves would be pretty lonely if we weren't working with our friends. And so we just find it's like a much better way to build a startup. But in the end, you have some moments in time when everything seems hopeless, and maybe your friend is the only thing that really pulls you through. Israelis understand that like better than anyone on the planet, right? So you guys nailed that part. Then 3, we really want to understand how fast you can build it. And if you're just going to build it slowly, because that's who you are, you think, it's got to be at this level of quality or whatever, you're just not a good match for our program, because we invest in founders that move really fast. They include founders who are building fission reactors, fusion reactors, satellites that go into space to do LLM inference using solar power. I mean, people can build really big things. First ever private supersonic jet, and AI for your CRM system, for your SMB. Like, it includes everything. And what we found with every single one of those founders is they were capable of achieving major milestones or launching really, really, really fast. So we care a lot about that. And we generally find most people who think they can go fast, when poised with the question, what would it take to launch earlier and go faster, still have like lots more room left. If you wanted to experience one overwhelming piece of feedback that every YC founder has when they go through the program, they will say, I never knew I could work that hard that fast. So it is, now the world calls it an accelerator. It really does push you faster than you ever could become. Okay, so we said, can you communicate clearly? We mentioned, are you smart enough? But determination, how fast you can build. And then we want to find out, could this thing become big someday? And really our way of understanding whether this thing could become big someday is because you are doing something that so wonderfully makes people love what you're doing, even though they're a small number. We can imagine that there are other people nearby who you'll eventually be able to serve as well. This is a very important distinction. We are saying it's better to serve a small number of people a lot than a large number of people anything less than that. And that framework, Paul Buchheit invented it, has really driven the practice of YC. What we don't do is do big launches. We do small launches to small number of people so that they can really make that user say, this is the best service that's ever been invented for what I need. And then we find there's probably someone like them and they could increase their user base that way. So that's where we start. And that's how we determine, do you have the capacity to build a really big company, especially if the users you serve turn out to be people that also grow themselves. One of the things the Israelis do really well is they solve problems that they learned here. That is a totally fine way to solve a problem because you really, really understand what like a really discerning customer needs. I served in the IDF and the IDF needed this, and thus I know everyone else needs this type of database or this type of data transmission or whatever. That's a great way to start a startup. But my number one thing with Israelis on startup choice is, don't limit yourself to these really hard problems. Like, you could have come up with the idea that your burrito needs a taxi. That idea was available to anyone who wanted it. You could have come up with the idea that people would like to make money with their extra room during a recession and they'd like for someone to sleep in it and no, they don't need to cook them breakfast. Like, those ideas were available as well. Sometimes I get a little bit in Sirona, I get a little bit of the Israelis do deep tech and nothing else. And I just wanted to say, everything's available. If you build your startup, some fantastic deep tech startup, and it doesn't work, but you struggle to pay your employees in Argentina, and you build an HR system instead, you could have deal. And who doesn't want a $17 billion company? We've covered the application. The number of reviews you need is 10 to 20. So you should be getting reviews of your application 10 to 20 times. Most Israelis, when I talk to them, and they come to me and I ask them how many times has this application been reviewed, it's almost always 0. If I ask the same question in Waterloo, Canada, they'll say 20, 30, 40. That community organized itself. If I ask the same question in Paris, they will say, oh yeah, I'm in the Paris WhatsApp group, we've all helped each other, we all did it back and forth. There's nothing special about it being a YC founder. It does help to get it started, but the questions are really simple. A really good person to give you feedback on your YC application would be like a family member's friend. Someone who just doesn't care that much, but they're able to tell you whether they understand what you're building. Now, we are very technical, and 100% of the people who read the application are engineers. So the other thing I say is if you're a CEO and a CTO and the CEO doesn't code, just don't let the CEO get near the application. just let the engineer write the whole thing. It'll be so much better on the first version. Okay, I'll pause there. Anything else about the YC application you want to add?
So I think the biggest Hebrew word to describe what Jason said is tachlis. The one thing I'm trying to get people to do, and I'm helping people write YC apps, is to basically remove all the adjectives, like all the fluff, and it's really, really hard. It's really, really hard because you're blind to your own pitch. Like in your head, like when you're saying transforming, it means like changing a business process in a meaningful way. Blah 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 blah. I think, and I think one of those 20 people that reviews your application should probably be your mom. And by the way, there is a great book called The Mom Test, which is really like the product development equivalent to how to write YC apps. And the other thing I'll say is that YC as a YouTube about like how they review applications, and basically they say like team and insight. And the one thing that you should think of when you're thinking about insight is like the idea is not like you can order a taxi from your phone. The idea is the insight. The idea is that you really can't order a burrito when you're living in the suburbs. Like that's the idea. That's the insight. That's what you find out. When for us it was, we figured people who built chatbots really had to spend a lot of time dealing with the edge cases. That was the insight. That was the insight. So what you really need to ask yourself is like what's special, what's smart about the thought process that got you to the product? What's special about the thought process that got you the first users? Oftentimes, and the last thing I'll say that's not intuitive, I think for Israelis, is that people in America appreciate execution way, way, way more than they appreciate ideas. For us, when we ask what's different, what's new, we usually mean what's different about the product and what's different about the technology. Because the cyber mindset is like, there has to be a hack that I did in 8200 that got me the ability to build that startup. That has to be a special project that got to the nuclear program in Iran that made that team special. And for the most part, like really, really the most part, the special hacks, the special insight that get American investors excited is how are you going to get the next million faster than the other teams? Because no one thinks that you have a special, no one thinks that you're the only one that sees the opportunity. Even the big companies sees the opportunity. But what you may see is that if you're chasing that buyer, or if you have that messaging, or something like a very trivial thing, you'll sell faster. So that's another thing that I think is elusive for us as Israelis, because we're so used to the playbook of like, let's hire our smartest friends and then let's sell our people to an American company. And that's a great recipe to become rich, but it's a very bad recipe to build a big company. But other than that, I think you nailed it. Yeah.
Something I've learned that I didn't previously know, and it will change what I do in the future, is that I didn't know that Israelis index towards the uniqueness of their idea, because that's what they were trained wins when they came out of their idea. And Americans don't do that. I've never heard it said that way. 100% true. American YC never ever cares about how unique your idea is, because we want to invest in a Gusto and a Rippling and a Deal, and whoever comes up with the next way to send money to Argentina to pay your people. That was really good. Okay. Who here has gotten a YC interview? Great. Didn't get in? Bummer. Almost there though. Okay, let's do a YC interview. All right, who would like to be interviewed for their startup?